In this video, we will discuss the origins of the English language over history. So, the English language is very complex, as we know, and has many dialects and variations and such. And especially, one of the greatest examples would be the colonists from England, pilgrims that brought over their English from England and then changed it into a variation of their own, which is American English. Now, even in England, they have many different dialects, but we will discuss that further. Now, well, the question is, where did English come from? It's an interesting story. So basically, we started, and we had this area that was more of a geographic expression than actually was England at the time. And the era of England was invaded by Germanic tribes. So we had Germanic tribes. Germanic. Now, these Germanic tribes, there were three of them. The Angles, the Jutes, or the Utes, and the Saxons. This is why we call English people and such Anglo-Saxons in regards to the two larger groups. Now, so we had Angles, Saxons, and the Utes. So, the Angles and the Saxons and the Utes each contributed to their own form of language. This Germanic form took shape in the English area, and in fact, England was originally called Angel's Island, or Angles Island, because this group, the Angles, and then it turned into England. So, basically, all these Germanic tribes come from Germany is a geographic expression, so it comes from the German area, but remember that Germany did not exist at this time until about 1871. So, in other words, basically, the main contributing factor to language was the Schleswig-Holstein area, which was this little part in Germany, or, well, it's a geographic expression around that area. So, from all these tribes, these established the basic language. Basic. But then we have issues later on. In about the year 1066, we have a Norman invasion by the Vikings. So then we have our Vikings. Now the Vikings each added, Vikings, a group itself, they all added onto this Germanic original language and changed words. Well, where did it go from there? Basically, the Vikings just added each individual words, each individual phrases, whatever they could add to this original Germanic language. However, the main contributing factor to the English language was actually French. So later on we have the French. French was originally the language of the aristocracy in England. Aristocracy. Let's see. And in England, which is kind of ironic considering that the English people, you would think that they would have their aristocracy would speak English, but English did not exactly exist at this time. It existed in a form as a shape, but did not truly transform to the fullest extent. So from here we have the French aristocracy. French was basically the language of luxuriance at the time. And, well, we have a problem later on with the French speaking, considering the wars that, the 100 Years' War that England and France will endure. So then the aristocracy didn't want to speak French any longer, but they had no other language. The only other language is actually Germanic, well, Germanic language, or German, basically. This was what the other people spoke. So all the rest that are not aristocrats spoke German. Well, they have a problem. What's their common language then? The aristocrats speak French. The other people speak German. So what do? Now, basically, we don't like the French language at this point. We think that, well, they're a bunch of crazy people because they're starting wars with us. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a blend of French and German. This blend is called English. And words like mother, father, all come from German language. But then from French we get feminine, masculine, we get many words. This was the major shaping of the English language. And of course we have many different dialects from here, but these were its origins and roots. The only change that is made is from the English, the British, and in fact they have their basic, their standard language without having any dialect or accent, which is used in, well, mostly government activities, which you would need for every language. That you need that dialect, that standard dialect that they start with, in order to actually be part, essentially, of their society. Now, there's always a divide between the dialects of Northerners and Southerners. I'll discuss British dialects later, but just like North America, you have Southern dialect and you have Northern dialect and all different types of sectional dialects as well. You have it in many other places as well. You have them in Italy, you have them in France, you have them everywhere you go due to the environment that they inhabit. A dialect is more created from the idea of distance decay, that if I spoke to someone that speaks my language, they go away a little while, then essentially they're gonna like not have the same language that I was speaking. They're gonna have a different one. So this idea of speaking differently or picking up a different sound with it creates these dialects and can even create new languages as well. So that's the main idea of what happens here. And basically the relation of language to culture and migration is that language is carried with you wherever you go. It's like luggage. So essentially a culture stays true to its language and tries to promote its local diversity instead of globalization that the world is going on with today. Just as English is spreading across the world, maybe due to British imperialism that had existed before, or maybe the United States and the Philippines, the United States and their areas. Bottom line, English was spreading. And that is why English is so diffused and so diverse around the world today. Because we all know that Mandarin Chinese is also one of the widely spoken languages. However, Mandarin is clustered into one central area, which is in China. So we would rather have it spread out, due to our imperialistic efforts, and what the British did in their areas. We have it spread. The main evidence of spreading would be from the British English to American English, which was the North American colonies. They adopted their own kind of dialect, and it eventually became that the American colonies spoke, when they began, this British English. But when they were so far away, an example of distance decay, they were unable to really grasp the British English language again. So they changed their own language based on their environment, based on whatever they really wished. And the environment is a major key factor in the shaping of language as well. That's why there are so many different languages today. But besides the distance decay factor as well. But mainly this is evidence of words in our dictionary that we find from all these other languages. Mainly they're from either German or French, and usually the short words are usually German, and the very extravagant words are French. So that is basically where English began. If you have any questions, ask.